A client of mine asked me to modernize and completely transform her bedroom set to a more modern look. This consisted of two nightstands, a headboard, a footboard, and a dresser. This is part one, the nightstands. So one of the major things that she wanted done was to get rid of these grape and grape leaves or whatever they are that are on two drawers and the base of her nightstands. When I looked at the nightstands originally, I thought, these will come right off. Was I ever wrong? These things, as it turns out, were nailed on and glued on with triple X Gorilla glue of some sort. This stuff was not coming off. I attempted to chisel this stuff or I was trying to raise it enough that the things would pop off. What I ended up doing is almost completely destroying one of the door fronts. Thankfully, these door fronts came off of the drawer boxes. And once I figured out that this stuff was not going to come off after I had really, it almost ruined, well, it did ruin the front of the door of the drawer. And I thought the only way I could fix this was well, I had some options. One, I thought I could just go get new wood and just make new drawer fronts. That would have ended up being the easiest way. The other thing was to just simply sand it down, and which is the route that I did end up taking. But on the first drawer front that I did, I just completely destroyed it. So what I decided to do was go ahead and sand it flat, and then I turned it around so that the front that I destroyed would be hidden by the drawer box. The back of this was fine, and it was okay, and so that's what I ended up doing. But did I ever misjudge what it was going to take to get this stuff off? Well, I had the same design on the base of these nightstands. So to make a long story short, I could not get the base off of these nightstands. One thought that I had was to simply turn them around, but I could not. So I took a heat gun to the legs. That didn't work. The only thing I succeeded in doing was chipping off a piece of the leg that I had to glue back on. This stuff is just not coming off. So, making a long story short, I've got to sand it down. So I'm going to go get my Orbital, and I'm going to start sanding this, and we're going to make it flat. And once I do, we're going to cut the base. So I'm using 60 grit sandpaper. It's the lowest grit sandpaper I could find at either Home Depot or Lowe's, and I didn't have time to really order anything online. So I sanded this down flat. It didn't take as long as I thought it was going to take, which was nice. But I've got two of these bases to do. But once I get it all sanded down, then I will tape it up and measure, and we'll cut it off. She wants basically the base to be somewhat flat. The way it's made, you can tell on the legs, it kind of starts at the top of the base of the leg and kind of comes down a little bit and starts back up. Where you have that valley there is where I'm going to cut, and to the other side to where that valley starts. So sand it away, and we're going to get this all sanded off. Okay, so I'm done with my Orbital, and I'm going to finish this up using the SurfPrep, and I'll have to come back all over this with the SurfPrep and use, I have 80, I don't have 60 for the SurfPrep, so we'll get this off, smooth this all out, and then we'll have to, once I get that and that side, the mold on the other side out, then I'll come back over everything and sand down smooth up to, probably 220. So now I'm taking my SurfPrep using an 80 grit sanding pad and trying to get these edges done here where I couldn't get with the Orbital. So I'm gonna get that done, and then I'll go back over with up to 220 to get it nice and smooth. And I may have to do some of this by hand. I don't know, but I'm hoping I can just do it all with the SurfPrep, and then we're going to tape it off, and we'll begin to cut. So as I said earlier, the client wants the base as flat as it can be. Just when it's built, I can't completely cut it flat, or it wouldn't look right. So where has the little valley before it pops back up again, I'm going to lay the tape so that it straddles those valleys, and then I'm going to cut. So there'll be a little bit of a slope upwards on the base, and then it'll go flat, and then on the other side it's sloped downwards, so that it's going to be as flat as it can get without ruining completely how this base was made. So I'm going to cut the base with my jigsaw. I'm going to have to make a kind of like a little relief cut here. I was hoping I was going to be able to get the jigsaw in so I could just go straight across, but it's too wide, and so I make this little relief cut so I can get my blade in there to start going flat. So then when I get this side done, then I'll turn the saw around and finish it off. Once I do that, I'm going to sand it down with the SurfPrep, and again, start probably about an 80 and going up to 150, 180. The bottom doesn't have to be all that smooth since it's not going to show. And then I'm going to take this little Craig tool that I have and measure from the with a little molding goes across there down to the bottom of the base, and ensure that it's level, because I'm going to have to, I do pretty good with the jigsaw, but it does wander a little bit. I must admit, I'll get better as I do more. But so I'm going to have to, flatten it out to make sure that it's all level on the bottom.
Well, I think those bases look really good. They are off about almost an eighth of an inch between the two, but being that they're going to be on opposite sides of the bed, you're never going to be able to tell. So I am going to check them one more time to make sure that they are level on the bottom until they start to curve. But I think those look really good, a whole lot better already. Okay, so I've started this with my little tool. This is all one piece. Could be a lot of damage to this side, so it's going to have to be bondoed, or maybe not bondoed, but wood filler. So I'm going to try to take the rest of this and see what I can get up. Yeah. Okay, this is going to be quite a project, but it's going to be interesting.
So this is the second panel that I'm taking off. I've got 4 total. I'm going to take a heat gun to it. It is cracked, so maybe it's not going to be as bad as I think to get this removed, but I can't even get a fingernail underneath of it. So I'm going to take a heat gun. We're going to heat it up and see if that helps, and then we're going to pry this panel off. Well, I have all 4 panels removed and left with this, very ugly spot on each of the nightstands. So what it did do, though, is, there was veneer. That's what is all over this. And when I pulled the panels off, it kind of shredded, I guess, or split, splintered, I guess maybe the right word, the veneer. So I'm going to take my knife, my utility knife. I'm simply going to cut the loose veneer off. I'm going to have to skim all this anyway, so there's no sense of trying to save anything. it's all going to be painted. So I'm going to cut the veneer off so I don't have anything loose. If I have something loose, it's going to, if I put wood filler on it, it's going to bubble up a little bit, and then I'm going to have to remove it again. So I'm going to do this to all four sides of each nightstand, and then once that's done, I will be able to start patching it up and seeing what we have after that's done. So now that I've got, or hopefully I've got, all the loose veneer cut off, it's now time to go ahead and repair and patch the sides of each of these nightstands where I took off this panel. So I'm just using DAP Wood Filler, and I'm going to use just apply it on here, and we're going to get spread out. I am sure this is going to take a couple of coats. That the first one I'm going to have gaps that I missed, but we'll do it until we get it all smoothed out so that we can then prime it and go on to painting. So the tops of these have really been damaged. It looks like it's water damage, veneers, raised up, missing, cracked. I haven't cleaned the top yet, which is what I'm doing now with Crook Cutter. And then I'm going to go ahead and sand all this down and smooth it out. I mean, I'm not trying to save it since I'm going to paint it. And unfortunately, both nightstands have the same issue. So I'm going to take the Orbital and we're going to sand her down. I need to apply wood filler to all the places on the two tops that are gouged, scratched, and there's a lot. So we're going to apply this. Also, I'm going to have to go back over some of the sides now that it's dried and I've sanded down to see that I need to make some other repairs there. So, we'll get this on, and then we'll let this dry and we'll see where we're at.
Okay, here is these dresses. They were scuff sanded. Now they've been patched again, all the dings in places, quite a bit on this on these two little nightstands. Of course, this big patch on the side is where I took off the grape leaves and stuff and had to patch all that up. So yeah, there's a lot of patching, and I don't know what I'm going to find. You always find something else after you prime it too, so I don't know what I'm going to find there, but more of the same. The drawers, they had to have some patching. So I let this dry for a couple of hours, and then we'll be ready to sand. Okay, it's time to sand the cabinets down. I've already done the drawers, and it's interesting, I'm seeing bleed through this stuff, so obviously I'm going to put a shellac based primer on there or something, which is what I've got. All right, here we go.
So obviously a lot of sanding to be done. I'm starting out with a 120 sanding sheet on the SurfPrep, and I'll go up to 220. I cannot stress how important getting this sanding done right is, making sure that everything is smooth. And I continue to make mistakes. I think I've got it all, and then I'll prime it, and then I'll find places as I go back over it with my, with my hand, my fingers, and I'll find places that just aren't right, and I got to fix them. Because you don't want anything leaving your shop that isn't at the highest quality that you are capable of producing. So it's really important, especially when you got this many repairs, just to make sure you have all this sanded flat, sanded smooth, so that when you start applying your base coat of paint, it's going to look right. So I have all the sanding done, and now it's time to prime these two nightstands. Because I detected a little bit of bleed through on the DAP Wood Filler, I'm spraying shellac based. It's a Zinsser, I guess, shellac based primer. It dries really smooth and it dries very quickly. I'm using these spray cans because I don't put this stuff in my sprayer. I only use water-based paints in my sprayers. So, and these are small anyway, so I'm just going to go ahead and use the shellac-based primer in the can. So we're going to spray them both and then let that dry, and we'll see what issues that priming them exposes, because it usually does, and then you have to go back and do just a small, hopefully only a small amount of patching. Well, after priming, I did find a few spots, a few where the veneer, I did not get it all cut off, and so it raised. So I needed to cut those pieces off. So, you know, it was all flat. So I'm going to have to apply filler again, and you know, probably a little bit of a spray primer over those areas. And I'm not going to show that. But once all that's done, then will be time to put the final coat of paint and the Sausalito finish. I'm not going to show that in this video. I'm just going to show the final end results. I will put a link in the description of other videos that I have that show how I do apply the Sausalito finish. So here's the final result of this nightstand transformation. I think it came out beautiful. This was a lot of work. The client has seen pictures and loves it, and it's going to be delivered here in just a few days. So I'm really proud of how this turned out, and now it's going to be on to part 2, the headboard and the footboard.